So Pamade, where exactly you are in the UK? Which city? Is it?
I'm in Nottingham.
The same city with Miss Santi?
No, she's I think she's up north. She's in Lancaster, right? So I'm in Nottingham, East Midland they call it. So halfway between London and Lancaster, I suppose.
Okay.
And I've never. Well, I just passed, I think, Lancaster last year when I was on my way to Yorkshire. I visited some of the region that they call the Lake District. So it's close to Lancaster or somewhere near Lancaster.
All right.
It's a small island. It's a small island. So 3 hours drive from tip to tip, I suppose. 4 hours at the maximum.
So is it separate island from the mainland?
No. So I mean, it's UK itself. If you look at the mainland, the landmass, it's not that big. So you could just travel probably 3-4 hours in car. Going to the tip from north to south. Yeah, I mean, it's not that big. So compared to our country, it's just like three time zones. And if you go to Papua, you have to spend 5 hours, and it has to be big planes. You can't just use any plane, but it's so you can imagine how big our country is.
Nice.
Okay.
So maybe in a couple of minutes we will start.
Okay. So what does Rian say about the Asar? So some of.
Excuse me.
Oh, he has to be away for a while for prayers. Oh, so he's back.
Yeah. Our host today is Rian. Is it Rian?
Okay.
Yeah, it's correct.
Okay, so Rian will lead the meeting.
Okay, before we start, Pak Madi, do you need any help to share your slides or something else?
I got a very, very simple slide. I think I could upload that. Okay, wait a minute. So I think I probably could upload it so that you could wait a minute. I have to.
Rian, maybe you can say hi first to some of the guests today, like Mr. Sarman or Budena. Look at.
Okay, thank you. Good evening,
Mr. Sarman.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Budina, Pak Sarman, Pak Arif, especially Pak Made, our speaker today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For those are Muslims. Yeah, it's good to have you here again on Tuesday evening at the very event related. Look forward to it, namely speaking class, English club speaking class, with obviously thanking God Almighty because of all the blessings and graces we can gather routinely. First of all, let us introduce ourselves. I am Rian, as host this evening, and my friend Patrick Viva will be the co-host this evening. We will guide you all approximately in an hour till the end of the session. Okay, pardon me, Pak Madi, Pak Arif. There is other here in Magelang, in Selasa, so would you mind to wait a minute?
Yeah, that's okay. So Pamade, maybe I'll start. So we are comprised of several employee of BPJS Kesehatan all around Indonesia. So like I'm in Jakarta, and here Pak Sarman is from. Where are you from, Pak Sarman?
I'm in Lombok right now.
From where?
Lombok. Lombok.
Yeah, of course you're from Lombok. And Rian is from Magelang, is it, Rian? And there's Zaldi from Sulawesi, Bu Dena is from Bima, and many of us rather on Indonesia. So this is a English club. It's informal club, but the corporate already know us as a club that concern in English. So we are here just to learn more about English. So periodically, routinely, we have a guest speaker like you now to get more information about English. So maybe we can start, Lian. I have shared the presentation to you. Maybe you can help Amadi to share the screen.
Yeah. We'll figure out. Well, Pak Made, pardon us. So we can start it right now, sir?
Okay, I suppose. Okay, many thanks for this opportunity to give a short talk about the use of language in the UK and some of the social culture or social engagements that students who could do while they are studying in the UK. And I think it's very interesting that you managed to form a group, an English club, and I think that's it's wonderful. So I think you have done a good job to be able to have many members from across Indonesia, and then coordinate everything, because I believe it's not an easy task to do, to ask people to join online webinar or seminar or whatever you call it. So yeah, so kudos, and I think it's a good job for you to be able to organize this. And many thanks again for this opportunity. So I just prepare a short slide. I mean, I could just talk, and then if you feel like you want to ask me questions right away, so you feel free to just ask questions. So I'll try to answer it the best I can. Okay, I think we missed this. This is not the first one. Or is that the, probably I missed the, can you move to the first, the second one? Okay, so I think, yeah, probably I just missed it a little bit there. Probably the third one, I think I could start with the third one. And then I could start with the third one.
Slides.
Yeah, third slide.
Third slides,
Yeah,
okay.
The third slide. This is the second one, and then the other one after this, I think.
After this.
Yeah, the next slide after this. Right. Okay. I'll start with by talking about a little bit about my experience learning the language itself. And I started learning the language when I was 10. So I was grade 4. So back then in the 1970s, so now you know how old I am now. In 1970s, I don't think we have English in elementary school. So my first teacher was my brother, who was 10, or now still 10 years my senior. So he is my first English mentor. So at that time, I was grade 4. I was 10 years old, and I was using the book from L.G. Alexander. It's a very good book that probably is out of print now. It's quite out of date, and it has, I think, 4 levels, and I think it's quite useful just to use one book, and I think it covers everything that you need to know to learn English. But the thing is that when you learn language, and I have to debunk the myth, because most of the time what we learn is language in proxy. In proxy means that you are not learning the language where this is basically used by the community, but we are learning the language through the media, and we get acquainted through something from the media, and it might form something in our brain or in my mind that the people are like that. So if you watch American Idol, and you have Simon Cowell. So probably you might think that most British people will be like him, this very sharp tongue and very cynical about something, but probably it's not the real representation of most British people. Probably there are British people who are like him, but probably there are people who just, they're opposite of what Simon Cowell looks like or acts like or behaves. And yeah, I mean, so that's the language that we learn in proxy through the media. We also learn language through film series. Most of the time when I was a child, there weren't many series that we could have that comes from the UK, and most of the things are series that come from Hollywood and American series. So I learned some sort of a mixed accent, some British accent from the book, but also more series and songs and recordings that are produced in the US. I met several people from the UK and from the United States during my education. So this kind of things probably give you a snippet. It's not actually the actual thing about how language is actually used, but you come to you came through contact to all these people, all this media, and you form some sort of things in your mind that this is how the language is used. And in education, I was educated. I learned English all by myself for 3 years before I started in junior high. So the junior high, I don't know how the system now works. So junior high, that's the first a formal lesson in English, but most of the time what I was taught is just the grammar, and it's not actually using it, but grammar and the test, and you will pass the test if you can ask some questions about what the right right tenses that you use for this particular question. And that's the kind of thing. So I studied English literature in Universitas Indonesia, and most of the lecturers there would speak in British accent, especially those who teach language. So I was sort of in that kind of education with slightly, inclined to a more British accent rather than American accent. But I believe that I don't have that particular accent that I could call I use British accent or I use American accent. It's more something between, something more hybrid, something more international, so to speak. But then I was not fortunate enough to be able to study in the UK until later age. I had been trying to get a scholarship because that's the only way I could finance my studies. I think I was late in my my life to be able to go to the UK. So it's 2014, 2015 that I first came to the UK. That was probably after 35 years learning English. So it was quite unfortunate that I didn't get enough sort of earlier in experience exposed to language. I traveled briefly, to Australia and Southeast Asia, but not to the UK. So when I first came to UK, 2014 to 2015, probably I was a little bit in shock because basically this is not the English I learned at school. So so I learned it the hard way when I was in university. So you could imagine that English is quite not segregated. I don't think it's the right word for that. It's in the sense that it's clear mark between the educated one and the less educated one. So if you speak to an educated one, the language is very clear and you can understand it clearly, but then different social class, probably different sort of inflection or accent or pronunciation. So there are a variety of English, but the things that we are exposed. So I think I could only talk from my own experience. Most of the time I was exposed to the one from Cambridge and Oxford. So everything is intoned. You learn, internalize that kind of a intonation and pronunciation. All the cassettes and all the listening materials that I used to have are these wonderful materials that created in either Cambridge or Oxford. So when you get used to say things like, would you like to have a drink before you go? So that intonation is just like, this is your second nature. So yeah, and you would suspect that everybody in the UK would speak that way, but the thing is that it's not the case. So most of the time it's quite different in different region. So the first time I was in Bristol, so I was doing my master's in Bristol. I was like, I mean, I overheard younger people talking. It's like I couldn't understand what they are trying to say. So it was like I thought I speak English, but I find it quite hard to understand what they want to say. And one day I traveled to not the suburb, but they say there's one region near Bristol called Weston-super-Mare. So it's a coastal area. There's a beach there, and so people go there for a holiday or retirement house and things like that. So I sat on the bus, on the double-decker bus, and on top of double-decker bus, and next to me there are just two elderly ladies who chat and talk to each other. And I suddenly said, that's the kind of English I understand. So it's like, do I have to speak like elderly ladies? Yeah, I can only understand elderly ladies. So that's the kind of thing. So there's something different actually. It doesn't mean that you can't learn English at school, but it could be totally different settings when you are actually out there and hear people talking. When I was a student at university and studying English literature, I spent 5 hours a day listening to the BBC, to the point that I could remember every single news that day and the order that they present the news. So that's how exposed I was to the BBC. So it helped me in some ways. I've been I've done many different jobs. I've been a teacher. I've been a journalist at one point in my life. So that helped me a lot when I was conducting an interview, because the language that I learned from the BBC helped me a lot in coming forward as someone, trying to get something out of an elite and try to ask the leader to elicit something from these high-ranking officials. That helped me a lot. But then in real life, probably people don't talk like that. People don't talk like that because in the BBC, most of them would speak in what they call the RP, the received pronunciation. So that's if you watch movies like Downton Abbey and probably The Crown, it's all about the royal families. They all speak like that. So it is useful for you. And for me, it is not difficult to understand them because that's kind of English I learned at school, and I'm used to listening I'm used to sort of, I could just cook while I'm listening to it, and I can understand every single thing they said. But the thing is that there are many different accents in the UK that are so now I try to change a little bit my habit. I'm not listening, I'm not watching BBC all the time, but I probably switched to ITV. I switched to Channel 4. So here, then you start realizing that language is probably very rich. So it's not only you are using one resources and say that you understand everything about that language. Yeah, so then my biography, I learned it the hard way. And sometimes I find nowadays I try to switch and watch something more vernacular, something more not traditional. I try to get a way of standard British series, but I try to watch series that is more has regional dialect, probably EastEnders and I don't know, Hollyoaks and called Ladhood. So there's a series called Ladhood, and it's I think they speak the accent from Leeds. So this is very interesting. Now I think this is I started with a language which is very academic and very formal. Now I'm going back or going forward, trying to listen to something that is more informal, that's something that I don't understand. So I find myself like, in social life a little bit, how should I say it a bit too, I don't want to be called posh because I think there is some sort of a, not negative, but if you speak like the Queen's English, sometimes it's a little bit, you're considered posh, not in a good way. I don't want to come across like someone who is posh in terms of using that kind of language, because it's sometimes quite difficult to maintain sort of the consistency of using that particular kind of accent. Now, and then that's my whole biography, how I sort of come to understand that what you learned in the classroom probably is not actually the same as what you would use outside the classroom. So while you're exposed to exposure through the media, brief context, education, and watching series might help, but you need something else to add up to it. You know, something else to to complement that, so that you would be some sort of a, you have well-rounded sort of view about the language itself. Now, language in the classroom is probably the one that I have learned before, so I don't have any problem when I have to attend lectures, write essays, and discuss with my cohorts. So I don't have any problem at all on that front. But as I mentioned before, it's the language that people use that we need to know. Now, and then what we need to do is to expose ourselves to a variety of language use, and make some sort of a understanding that you always need to improve in one way or another. And I try to expose myself to different kind of media, the BBC and the varieties, and ITV and Channel 4. We know that language in academic circle is more formal, accurate, and ambiguous, and they use a lot of jargon. So you have to understand it as well. If you want to study in the UK, especially if you study social sciences, there are many words that until you experience yourself, you probably are not aware of the different ways of explaining things. When I watch American sort of lecture, the language they use is somewhat similar to what they use in real life. But in UK, I think the language in the classroom, the academic life, it's a lot more formal, and use some of the jargons that you need to understand before you participate in a discussion. So if you're sociology and social sciences, you will be bound to find words like liminal, iterative, agency, biography. Just to say a life of a person, you use the word biography, but that's sort of a jargon that you use within the community, within the discipline of sociology. It means that you need to improve yourself in this way, so that when you have a discussion, when you have a lecture, then you understand what they want to say without you having to sort of look at your dictionary every now and then because you think that you miss some part of the explanation. That's the kind of thing that you have to do before you attend a classroom. So that's what I would like to say. But then in informal settings, you have to understand that we know in language learning, what we call a register. So you have to know when you have to use register, the formal one, and when you have to use the informal registers, especially in social engagements. But this needs practice. You have to go out there and meet people and see how they kind of interact, which is quite different from the way you interact within the classroom. But unfortunately, with this COVID coming, with this COVID hopefully going, or we would have more time to be in a real sort of social events where we can meet people and have a chat, rather than having it over online, which is quite cold and it's not very interesting when you look at that. And it also means that you need to expose yourself to a wider group of community. If you are a student, then you could talk with fellow students, but on the other hand, you need to go out, meet people, try to talk to them, because they might not use the same language as your teacher or your professor. Okay, so that's just a language as something alive. It's not something that is rigid and dead, but it's something alive that it keeps changing, it keeps improving. People have different vocabularies now, so you have to be aware of it. And I mean, that's about the thing that you need to know when you want to learn a language as something that people actually use, rather than learning one type of language. Now, if I can go back to the first slide, Ariane. The first one, the pronunciation, before we talk about social life. Okay, so then we look at limits of language. I don't claim myself as a linguist, so I probably won't be able to use the actual sort of the jargon that they use in linguistics. But the thing is that one thing that is obvious in British English is certainly the pronunciation. It's the sound and the vocal and consonant that makes it different. And across the land, you have people pronouncing word slightly differently, but it's enough to stop you on your track, in the sense that stop you from understanding this person, although probably there's only one sound that you find different. I happen to know someone who grew up in Lincolnshire, on that part of the UK, in which the pronunciation of his U is more an ah. So instead of saying run, he would say run. Instead of saying up, he would say up. So when we talk about it, and he asked me, can you run fast? I was like, what? Can you run fast? I was like, oh, I don't know what he's trying to say. And I said, oh, okay, can I run fast? So I was like trying to correct his English. He's a better speaker than myself, so it's run rather than run. And then he said something about, we watched this movie called Up. And I was like, what movie did you watch? Up. Is that the one with the balloons, the colorful balloons, the old man living in a house and he travels with lots of balloons? And oh, that one, I watched that. I said, it's Up. So I was like, the thing is that only one sound probably could make a big difference. The way they pronounce butter, I think I must have told everybody about this because it's a real thing. It happens to me. We have something they call jacket potato. So it's potato, big one, and then with cheese on it, and and one day I think I bought something from them, but this is a small food truck, and the owner of this lady, he was like looking at me and said, we let some butter. It was a butter or butter? She said butter. And I said, do you want some butter? I was like, and then her husband is standing next to her, and he was like, he lifted, so it's a tub of butter, and he looked at me and said, would you like some of these? And said, oh, butter. And so I was like, all right, I understand that. Yeah, yes. I said yes. And the next time she asked me anything, I would just say yes, because I don't understand what she's trying to say. So this kind of things. Then you started thinking, I thought I speak English, but just I couldn't. So I think people have, you have to think quickly, but when it happens to you, it takes a little bit of couple of seconds to understand what is we don't want to embarrass them as to keep asking them to repeat what they were trying to say, but at the same time you don't understand what they want to say. So most of the time, this is what I'm trying to do now. Try to go to some local shops and then ask them, just buy something from them, just imagining or expecting they would say something that I don't understand, that I could use as an experience and use as an example. But most of the time it's something like that. So it probably has something to do with social class and education, but it's an interesting thing to know. I didn't have this problem when I go to a clinic or something, but most of the time when I interact with sellers and hamburger joints and things like that, this happen. And some of the vocal and consonants, so probably you must have gone through this, and there are many I think wonderful materials, and tons of materials I think in YouTube then that tells you how to pronounce particular name of cities in the UK. I think the most obvious one would be Warwick. So you don't pronounce the W in the second one. So you don't say Warwick, but you say Warwick. So instead of a double R in the Warwick. I think you don't say Ipswich, but it's Ipswich or something, And then you don't say Debenham, but Debenham. So you don't pronounce the H. Leicester is pronounced as Leicester rather than Leicester. So I don't think they would understand. Say, I'll go to Leicester, and we would say, I go to Leicester, and they understand. They don't understand that. And intonation, rising and falling intonation, it's always helpful if you learn it the formal way. So to speak to as the first time you learn English, you need to be able to understand rising and falling intonation. That's very important. If you ask questions, that you end up the question of sort of rising intonation and falling intonation, where you come to a full stop. And that's easy for people to listen to what you want to say, because in falling intonation, it means that you have come to the end of your idea. Whether it's rising, probably you're suspending it a little bit, or you are asking questions, right? So that's kind of thing. So this pronunciation intonation, I think it's very important for you to learn formally initially. And then probably if you have the chance, if you have the resources to travel, then it might be very, very interesting to see it in practice, right? And as in terms of accent, I think in the UK, there's so many accents, even between themselves, they are not very sure what accent this person has, unless they tell you exactly where they grew up or where they studied. But most of the time people move, they were not, they born in a particular place, it's in the north or in the south, but then they could move north, they could move south. So most of the time they would say, like, I was born in the north, but I was educated in the south, so I have a southern accent. I have a south accent. So that's that. And if someone says that, then you understand, okay, you initially were born in this part, but then you move, and that's education. So that's where you acquire your accent. Basically, south and north accent, it's just like, we can't say it's more sophisticated, but London is probably on the south. So most of the time, south is considered more sophisticated, more educated. So as north is more into the hard worker, the working class kind of a person. But then that's kind of things that is embodied in the movie. If you watch A Lord of the Rings, there's someone called Sean Bean. Sean Bean is from Yorkshire. So the role that he is given, because of his accent or his look and his acting, is so suited for that kind of role, is someone who works very hard. And most of the time he died in the end. So halfway through the film, I think he would be killed or something. So that's kind of a Sean Bean role. So he's always someone from north and will work hard, get some of work ethic, and he was sort of died in the end. But in the south is more, the royalties, if you like, Benedict Cumberbatch and all this wonderful roster of actors. I think they all speak in the south, more south accent, and they are educated in the drama school. So they are trained to talk like that. So not everybody will talk like that, because they're very educated in the sense, like, that's what they learn, that's what their profession is. They have to say something very clearly on stage, because they are not going to repeat what they said, right? They said it once, and everybody should understand what they are trying to say. So that's why they are very trained. So don't expect everybody to speak and to talk like that, because that will be very easy. But in the real life, people don't talk like that. They don't sound like that, because they are actors, and they have sort of fruity, if you will, you use that kind of expression, fruity voice, because they are trained to have that kind of a pleasing to the ear sort of voice, because they are actors. But again, there's one branch in linguistics which is called social linguistics. Is the branch of linguistics that deals with changes in language and what it has got to do with life and social class. So there was one, I think, I can't remember the title of the documentary, but if you want to find it, I think I can help you find the documentary. So they're looking at basically whether accent would determine what job you have in the future. To some extent, yes, it's true, because in the UK, if you look at all the names of the people who have become prime ministers, most of them are elite, wealthy people. They go to boarding schools. They go to Oxford. They are a student in Oxford. They're studying law or other subjects, and they become prime minister. Boris Johnson, I think, is educated in one of those institutions. So the way he talks, it wouldn't be that much different to Cameron. David Cameron was the previous one. Mr. David Cameron for me. So I have to respect him as a former prime minister, and Mr. Boris Johnson. So and Mrs. Theresa May. So they all come from that kind of family. And I think there was a research in trying to find out whether it's actually the trajectory that people would find. But then there is an explanation for that. People of that kind of social class, they are very confident in their home setting. When they are children, they are allowed to speak, voice their concern, voice their opinion in such a that way. So they are trained to be a good public speaker since their early days. So in the end, they become a politician. And also jobs like working in a bank, high-ranking officials in a bank are usually occupied by this social class, sort of who speak the same language. And then that documentary is trying to chart someone who both graduated from University of Nottingham, but one has an accent of a RP elite accent from that kind of a context, and someone who is grown up in a working class, but they basically have similar education, but then the trajectory was very different. The one who is from elite family would go on working in these financial firms in London, where the rest would just work as, I don't know, I can't remember what he ended up working. But it's very obvious during the interview that it's someone who is from that wealthy class. They're very confident in the interview, but someone from a different class, it's not quite confident in the way they express their opinion and in the way they say things, in the way they respond to questions from the interviewer. So it's something that it probably is only a couple of examples, but it was in a documentary of the BBC. So it's very interesting to see the relationship between social class, accent, and the trajectory of the job, which that I think that documentary has sort of captured very nicely. And most of them, the elite with that kind of accent, if they work for the media, they would work for the BBC4. So BBC has slightly sort of different focus on its sort of branches. So BBC One will do this, BBC Two probably sports and religion, but BBC4 is the art. So people from that kind of background would be very suitable for that kind of a position with their accent and all those sorts of stuff. Now, and even in school, there's a joke in Bristol, I suppose. In Bristol, there are two universities. Basically, in most cities in the UK, they usually have one university and one polytechnic, but then they turn the polytechnic into a university. So in Nottingham, we have Nottingham University and what used to be a Nottingham Polytechnic, but then they made Nottingham Polytechnic Nottingham Trent University. So there are two big universities in Nottingham, University of Nottingham and Nottingham Trent. In Bristol, they have University of Bristol and University of West England, UWE. There are many Indonesians who are students in UWE. So then the joke is that if you speak more a Southern accent, you go to University of Bristol and the rest would go to University of West England. It probably is not true, hopefully. But that, accent sometimes is used as a mark of social class and where you belong. And slightly, I think, in terms of choice of words, I think British probably use some words that they use it, like the word mate and friend. I rarely hear them saying friend. So they wouldn't say my friend Madi. They say my mate Madi. They would say my mate Russ rather than my friend Russ. So the word mate is used. And how you mates? He's my mate, and he's my friend. So that's something that you would learn once you are here. So that's interesting. So what happened to the word friend? You have the word friendship. They haven't replaced it into mateship. They were friends of the earth. They haven't changed into mate of the earth or something. But in real life, someone come along, my friend come along. So it's my mate came along. Basically, British are very very polite. Sometimes they just don't ask you questions. That is, they're very direct. So there's something ellipsis they did halfway through. They stop and just raise the intonation. Rhetorical questions, things like, you wouldn't want to do that, would you? So just asking, don't do that, rather than saying, don't do that. I would say, you wouldn't want to do that, would you? You know, so it's very polite to think that. And okay, Zaldi has a question. Probably they just finish this one, and then let's have some questions.
Okay.
There's no friend in the UK, so it's me. You know, the vernacular swear words, obscene words, it's important to know. So it's not, I'm not advising you to use swear words, but you have to know what it means because then you know that's a swear word rather than, so that I don't really agree with, yeah, I mean, probably they have different reason. When you have something on television that, you know, is being, how should I say, being edited or being, you know, the beep kind of things when someone says something and it's beep, because in real life, nobody's going to do that, right? So who is going to beep you when you said something, you know, swearing, you know, but you have to know that it's not a good thing to say, but you understand that it exists, you know, so rather than being censored every now and then. So because I think in reality, you just swear, you know, so if you are angry, you swear. I mean, it's human beings. It's not a nice thing to hear from little kids, but, you know, it's just an adult. You need to know that this is a swearing. So you when someone said to your face, you don't smile at the face is something nice, but you know, you get angry that you'll be called something like that. Okay, so I guess that's about that. If you want to take questions now,
Excuse me.
would you like to take some questions now, or I just finished the last?
Is it okay if? Is it okay if we just jump to the question in your middle of explanation?
Oh, okay, yes, all right. I
Okay.
see. So two people raise their hands at Tati and Zaldi.
Thank you. I think Bang Zaldi first. Please, Bang Zaldi. Time's yours.
Yeah. Thank you, Mas Rian. And thank you, Mr. Made, for the chance and the sharing you shared to us. Pardon me for I might sound impolite to interrupt in the middle of the speak.
Okay. That's fine.
But
that's fine.
yeah, but I'm afraid at losing the chance to ask you these questions. Actually, yeah, you state at the beginning of the speech that why learning grammar so hard, then finally you don't use that. But as Indonesian, if we plan to make a study in like UK, we need those grammars and we need the pass IELTS test. So I'm stuck in the middle between I can speak but not properly, but I cannot also pass the IELTS requirement to be able to apply to the UK. First thing, how you suggest me to jump to do what I have to do first, and second, you as the UK is one of the dream country that I can continue my study. You said that they are using English very formal in the university. While you discussing or while you get your lessons in the class, is it help? I mean, is it enough when we have passed the IELTS test in the certain score? Do we need an additional course to understand what they are speaking in the class for the formal language, as you say? That's all, Mr. Made. Thank you. We are so honored to have you here.
Okay, should I?
Thank you, Master.
Should I answer this first, or just field the question from Tati as
well? You can answer it directly, Amade.
Okay, so okay. Thank you very much, Zaldi, for the question. So I hope I'm not, give a sort of a wrong impression about the importance of grammar. Grammar is very important. But the thing is that how do you study that? I think it's more important because the way I learned it back, you know, when I was in elementary school or in a junior high school, is that it's given as something that you have to memorize, which is probably not the interesting part of it, because language is something is alive. So if you could find a good grammar book, I think Raymond Murphy is a very good grammar book. So it's not boring. So it's called Raymond Murphy, MURPhy. Probably you must have, you know that. So use that one. It's a good grammar sort of references. It does. I don't want to say that grammar is important. Grammar is very important, but the way then you understand how it is used is more important. So I think the book is called Communication Skills or Grammar for Communication or something. It's a basic one, but it's very, very, very important. Having said that, so but the way it's going to be, but the grammar would stay forever with you once you understand it correctly. That is, if your teachers, you know, they teach you correctly about that particular tenses, then would stick forever in your head. So that's the interesting then because there are other things that is always related to grammar. When you say I have been doing this, I have done this, and I did that, it certainly has different sort of nuances in that. So you have to understand that, and only through understanding it for so many years, then you could sort of feel, you know, whether someone is polite, whether someone is cynical, you know. So it is very important. So I don't want, I hope I didn't say it is not important, but the way it is taught, that is important. I think the teaching of English, I think, needs to be sort of revised in Indonesia because but the thing is that some of the, I don't want to say bad things about my own colleagues, but some of the teachers, they are not good user as well. So that's the thing. So it's just like, if you have a math teacher who are not good at math and they're teaching you math, you can imagine, you know, how you know. So if you have a sports teacher who don't play football and trying to teach you football, well, you don't know what is there to learn from this person. So the quality of the teacher needs to be improved. But I understand that it's a long way to go, because I think teaching is not used as a job that earns a lot of money in this country. So I think that needs to change, because I think probably teaching is reserved for, you know, women, and then women are probably not considered as a breadwinner in the family. So I think that kind of thing that needs to change. But of course we have male teachers, but most of the time teaching previously 100 years ago reserved for women. So they are not earning the majority of the family. So yeah, but I think in many parts of the world, I think education is not the best place to make money, even in the UK. So you can be working in a financial firm and becoming a lawyer if you want to be rich. Yeah, having said that, I think it's the education of how they teach grammar. It's very interesting. I tend to, if I have to teach grammar, at one point you have to do the exercise, then we do some communication skill. But unless you understand that, you don't progress. As for Ielts, I think Ielts is quite accurate in describing your ability. But of course, there are many layers for you to sort of improve. If you are there for 6.5, or very at the very bottom of it, you will struggle. It doesn't mean that you will not graduate, but it's just you are starting on that level. You know, so it's starting at, if you can get 7.5, then you are beyond the safest sort of condition, right? So 6.5 is really the basic. I don't want to discourage you, but it's enough. But then you have to work hard here to be a lot better than that. Okay, so 6.5 is, if you are less than 6.5, the thing is that language course here is quite expensive. So if you come to UK when your English is below that, then you have trouble and you don't maximize your time here. It's better for you to be proficient in the language and then come here and then you study. Because the thing is, like, the master's degree here is for only 1 year. So you get only one shot, 1 year, and they have sort of no mercy. If you fail, you fail. You know, there's no something like kebijakan or whatever. So if you just fail, it is like, so that 1 year, you don't have time to improve your English, because you just sort of, you know, hit the ground running. So once you are there, everything is thrown at you. So if you are ready for that, you will be overwhelmed. So it's best to study here in Indonesia. But the thing is that if you have some means, if you have some resources, you could come earlier before the start. You can have what they call pre-sessional. Pre-sessional will cost you a lot of money, because you have to find accommodation for 2 months, in addition to the courses that you have to follow. So if you have some, money, because it's education in UK is very expensive. It's up to 800 million, so 800 juta. So some, you know, probably it's more for different discipline. So you have to know that you want to spend that much money, you better be ready in English. So, you know, but in my university, I don't know in other university in Bristol, it's because they have international students. It's very good that halfway through, when I was in master's degree, a second month after that, we have a break, the midterm break, right? So that then they give us 3 days of free English lessons, in which we are given the criteria. So in Bristol, we don't have exams for master's degree. We only have to submit essays. So because we don't need to have exams, we have to submit essays. On halfway through, we are taught this is the criteria. To get 80, this is what you need to do. To get 75, this is what you need to do. 70, you're all very clear. So 3 days of free. So when you are studying there, you have to be very aware. You have to have lots of friends of your own sort of level, so students from China, because they're going to tell you, hey, we're going to have this one. Would you like to come? And if you have only local friends, they don't care about that because they already speak English. You follow that 3 days, it's free. If you have to pay, I don't know how much it would cost you, probably £1,000. So that's you have to look for. They would help you as much as they can in terms of academic skills. They would give you sort of academic skills and also well-being, psychological support and things like that. So this wonderful. So the experience I have here is wonderful. They will support you in every single step of the way, from well-being to the academic skill. But you need to know where to look for that assistance, because it's available for free. Okay, so hope that you could get, if you think that you are not up to 6.5, you need to work harder. So because then you are here, you don't need to worry about your English. You can go visiting Cambridge and Oxford and spend some time outside. Oh.
Zella,
Okay, yeah.
Pak Madi,
Yeah.
Zella, Mas Zardi.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Budena.
Okay,
Yeah.
Budena.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rian. Pak Made, I'd like to ask, before I ask my questions, I think I agree wholeheartedly with your statement about grammar. I think in Indonesia, we pay attention too much on what it is called instead of how it is used. Like what is simple present, what is the formula of simple present, instead of how it is used in daily life, because it comes from experience. Actually, I always got bad grades when I studied English in high school. But then I went to studied in Australia in Australian high school. Then I kind of started from zero. It's kind so it's like the other way around. I understood what it is, how it is used. Then so this is what my English teacher in Indonesia meant by simple or past participle and etc. So grammar is important. I mean, in terms of how you use it. But that's not my question. It's just remarks. Pak Made, I'm really interested when you said that about how social status kind of play roles in the employment. Could you please elaborate a bit more on that? Because I mean, I kind of thinking that if I came from second generation immigrants compared to fourth generation of immigrants, or whether I live in posh area or in socio-demographically disadvantaged place, would it determine how an employment, how I land a special certain job or something? Could you please elaborate more on that? Because sometimes people, or probably Australians, think that British are kind of racist. So that's why could you please elaborate on this? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's quite interesting question, sir. I just basically read something. I probably know some or one or two people who experienced that. I think sometimes it depends on the family you grew up, the place where you grew up, the areas where you grew up, and to become a particular sort of people. And there are places in the UK which is not very good in terms of South London is not considered as the the example of a good neighborhood. So I think I heard that a couple of days ago there's a report about this a pilot whose father and mother is Kenyan and father is local, so half Kenyan, half American, and he grew up in South London. So the announcer, the TV host, as like, it's hard to imagine someone from South London becoming a pilot. She was saying that, okay, so do you think that someone from South London should not become a pilot? So, but that's on national television, the way they said. So it must be true to some extent that, so people who grew up in that kind of neighborhood, but then he rose above. So that's exactly what it said. He rose above the stereotypes of the people of South London would not become a pilot, but he became a pilot. So it means that he has some sort of a quality in itself, that he rose above his expectation and became a pilot. But I think to some extent it's true that what you want to be depends on what your family want you to be. In the UK, I think the first instance, the report that there are so many South Asian doctors who died of COVID. And then when we look at the statistics, most of them work in what you call it, emergency room, and most of them are doctors of respiratory, probably Dr. THT in Indonesia. So it might be interesting to see why Pakistanis want to become Dr. THT in UGD. so those kind of things, probably there's something idea. So then the number of Pakistanis doctors who died of COVID is that, and people say, okay, is this racist? Probably it's not racist in that sense. Probably there are people who want to be particular type of specialist doctors specializing in that, and then they're exposed to that kind of risk more than those who want to be cardiologists or dermatologists and things like that. But yeah, I mean, but it's somehow it's true. But the thing is that if it's the probably I put it this way, if it's a profession that you could go by training, probably it's not as much as a profession that goes by skill. So if you want to be, say, a doctor, some Pakistanis, because they work very hard, their parents will just save money for their children to go to the school. They could become a doctor. But if you want to be a lawyer, then it's probably something else. You need to have a connection. You need to have, I think it's the same thing. I don't want to say about the Kementerian Luar Negeri, but I don't think there's something, you can't just work there. But if you need to know someone, your father used to work in an embassy and then I think in Indonesia is the same. If your father is a doctor, you want your children to be a doctor. So, and then it's sort of, those kind of things. But it doesn't mean that you cannot, I think that's what they call generational mobility in sociology. Can you change within a generation, or you have to be just like your parents? But I think in the UK, it's accepted, change in mobility. If your parents are poor, you can be rich. But there are certain parts of profession that is reserved for that. If you want to work in fashion, so if you look at Prabowo's son, who becomes a designer, that's easy because she was born into that family with Ibu Tin having always expensive clothes and his mom. So then when become a fashion designer, it's easy for him to work through that kind of a profession. But for someone who really start at the, who don't come from that family, probably it's a little bit of struggle to know what is considered as good taste, what is considered as good fashion, and the rest of it. So there's some truth to that, but although it's not probably 100% true that you could always work your way up. And I'm the kind of person who believe that education might help you to be there. So education might not always prepare you to be everything you want to be, but education prepare you to react to some of the things that you might happen in your life. So I believe in that. But of course, there are things that I cannot change. So it's just like, even in Indonesia, a music teacher has to own a piano. So who owns a piano? Wealthy family. So then music teachers who are music teachers are all those who are rich, and they don't want to become a piano teacher. They don't become a school teacher teaching piano. So then our music education probably, because the rich people don't want to teach. They don't have enough money. Yeah. So see what I mean? So there are
it always comes with privilege, comes down to privilege and chance.
Yeah, I mean, because piano is regarded as expensive, although probably it's not the same. It's not true. The piano is a piano, but we regard it as luxury because it is expensive and only rich people can afford to buy one. And so people who can play piano are rich and they don't want to become a, say, teacher unless it's a Jakarta International School or something. So that's a pity. I think we have to change that kind of so thinking. I hope that answered the question, because
Yeah,
whether we
it
like it or
does.
not, there is something related to social class and profession and the way people are brought up.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Mati,
okay.
Ms. Dena. Yeah. Before we continue to the next session, let us to ask you, Pak Mati, do you want to back to your slides,
Okay,
or
my present,
we
yeah,
can
okay, my
jump directly
presentation.
to the Q&A session?
Probably I just finished my presentation. I can't.
Okay, okay. Before it, excuse me. Before it, sadly we have to say that the time is limited, and we just
Okay.
have. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. If you don't mind, and if it's possible, we thank
Yeah,
you
okay.
if it will be shorter.
Yeah, okay. So I'll just go through that, and then you can have answer and question
Thank
and
you very
answer
much.
session.
Kak Bia, can you help us? Ms. Bia.
Okay.
There the slide is.
I think the last slide, I think, or is the third slide? Last one, slide number 4. Number 4. Okay, so a bit of social life in the UK. Social life, because you talk about social life, so it's very important for you to go out there and learn about a little bit of pub culture. Pub culture in the UK is very important. One of the first thing you need to know is whether a pub doesn't only serve beverages, beers and everything, but they also serve food. So if you want to taste British food, then you can go to a pub. But then you have to check when it's going to have things that food, what time that it stops serving food. You can have Sunday roast, because it's Christian country. Your Sunday roast is just a roast, a beef, chicken and gravy and potatoes and things. There are words that is associated to social life in pub. You have to know what pint means. Pint means the size of the glass, and half a pint means half of it. And they would use some of the expression, the word nip. They use the word nip more than they use the word go. So when say I nip to Sainsbury, it means I go to Sainsbury. So it's, I don't know, they rarely use the word go to somewhere, but they use nip. And in social life, there are many places that you can visit. You can walk in parks and gardens and using apps, and you look at pictures of, you look at flowers and take a picture of it in the app, and then you understand what this flower is called. Bird watching would give you some additional vocabulary. What is a moorhen? What is a red squirrel? What is a moorhen or a drake? Red squirrel, if it's not only bird watching, but it's in the park. And shopping, buying groceries. So you go out there and trying to explore the language. They would call you love sometimes. No, we don't have that, love. It's just terms of endearment. So this is they call you love. And an old lady called me love and said, all right. And then people say, are you all right? So can I help? So this is the greetings from people who work in a supermarket or a small, shop. And participating in sports activities, rugby, cricket, football. So you got lots and lots of words coming from them. The football is always associated with, there are some bad side of football, the racism, the bad language, the hooliganism, but then it's part of every community has that kind of a thing. You go for entertainment, cinemas, concert hall, cafes. It adds some repertoires of how you behave in the particular settings, and then yeah, in household chores you have different way of using. I was surprised. My friend asked me whether I have seen the Hoover. I said, "What is a Hoover?" A Hoover? I don't know what a Hoover is. And then, okay, this is a Hoover. Oh, that's a vacuum cleaner. So we use the word vacuum cleaner is from the US, but they use Hoover. I think the brand is Hoover or something initially, so they call it Hoover. Okay, I think that's about that, my presentation. So social life is important for you to go and engage, experience the real life and the real language. So yeah, I don't know what you can do next next round of questions.
Wow, thank you, Mr. Mate. It's so interesting. Okay, well, anybody want to ask?
Okay, raise your hand, Made Julian Dari. Okay, please.
Yes, Miss B.
It is interesting. Miss Made asked to Pak Made. Wow.
Yeah. No, just call my name Julie. Just call my name Julie, not Made.
Yeah.
Okay.
Julian.
Because it's familiar. Okay. Hello everyone. Good evening. I haven't followed this Zoom meeting since the first, since from 6 of 8 o'clock, but I just started like 8:45 or something. So probably I didn't really hear what Mr. Madi said, but I have heard a little bit about how you use British grammar, and that is really new experience to us. Thank you, Mr. Madi. Probably in these times, I want to ask more about your social culture. As we know that UK is like combined from the many of traditions in any country. Like they have lots of history, and they have a lot of traditions like on the road, like what I've always seen on movie or on the TV. Like they have a lot of traditions. Have you experienced any traditions that you really like or you love the most in every year since you live in UK? And then second questions is how do you deal with the food? Like when you come there, because we didn't usually eat Western food or something. Yeah, we usually eat rice or we eat bread in here, but we don't always have that in UK. How do you deal with it? Do you have like stomach problems or something like that? Maybe just that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. On the question of food, I think I still prefer Indonesian food to British food. So that's the truth. So I always love the idea, but the thing is that in Nottingham we have it's not large. We have some sort of a community of Indonesian students. Most of them are small families, and then they usually cook, and they cook. They just put it in WhatsApp, and if someone wants to buy something from us, because it's quite a big quantity of it, so I would order something from them. So it's very interesting. If I have to choose, I have to choose Indonesian food. But for British food, I think the thing is that, well, you have to live in this country. You have to start. You can't expect to have Indonesian food, although you have some supermarkets that cater for that, Vietnamese food and Chinese, and we have some ABC, sambal, and ketchup, whatever you can have it. Indomie's everywhere, so that's easy. But the thing is that, yeah, if I could choose, I would choose Indonesian food over British food. But then, because socially, when we go out with friends, so you have to show appreciation with them. So I tend to, there's nothing, nothing. Always okay. You could just taste it. It's just like, international food nowadays. It's not something that is awful or something that is you cannot eat, but basically it's the same thing, unless if you are religious, then you avoid pork if you're a Muslim, but other than that it's okay. But then again, it depends on the place where you go. So you can go to a good restaurant and have a very nice British food. You can go to a restaurant that's a very bad one. So the way you choose the place, I think, matters. But in food, it's always about quality, and if you want to spend more, you can have a better quality of food. But tradition, what I like about them is that the circular economy, in the sense that they never throw things. They always have, if they move house, they don't want to throw things. Some people could use what they have used before. So for instance, if someone have a hut, or we call it a shed. A shed is a small house at your backyard, and then where you put your bicycles, where you put your utensils, your hammers and everything. But when you want to build one, so you should have demolished that, but you have a plank, you have the wood. So what you do is you don't throw it away. You don't, but you put it on a website and offer it. So if someone needs a shed, you can come and collect it. So instead of throwing things, they reuse everything. So I think that's what I like about living in there, is that people take good care of things. They are not just throwing things. And then there's a small cups, then you could always give it to someone. I don't need this cup, so you can use it. So in a way they take good care of things. And I think everything, if you watch some of the program in television in UK, it shows how good they are in maintaining theirs. So you have in the BBC a program where they could fix a bicycle. It is old, it is my childhood bicycle, I want you to fix it. And they would fix it. One person would fix the saddle, one person would fix the tire of it, and in the end it's a new one. But so they have the skill to do it. That's something I think Indonesia has lost. We just throw things and we buy a new one. So those kind of things, I think the skill to repair, whether it's leather, whether it's steel, whether it's wood, I think it's lost. So I think that's what I like most about people here, because they maintain the tradition of keeping things as it used to be kept 100 years ago. So that's why they are very good at history and museum and things like that.
Okay, so it's just for bicycle, or they
No,
also have like car? They also have
Yeah,
car for someone else.
Yeah,
So-
I don't know how they in terms of cars, but most of the time they would recycle everything. They're not going to, everything will be in good condition. They could take good care of it, and household chairs and things like that. They don't want to throw it. So most of the time, if they move house, they just put it in front of that house. So you can just take it. So if you want to take the chair, you can just take the chair. So it's not like, it's not going to be sold, but you could just have it. So I think that's one way of looking at circular economy. So everything is recycled. So you don't need to buy a new one. You can use something else that other people probably don't need. That goes for clothes as well. You have places where people can just donate clothes, and then you can wear the clothes that are, pre-loved ones. So Indonesia has started one. I think if you use the pre-loved ones, which I think is a good one. It's reduce the impact on the environment.
Okay, it's
I hope
very
that answered the
interesting.
question.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Made.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you both of you, Mr. Made and Miss Made. But before we jump to the next question, excuse me, Pak Made. In the end of the session, please choose 2 best participants based on their question. But but the winner must be not Bu Dena, Pak Arif, or Bang Zaldi, because they actually the English club. Yeah. Okay, Kak Bea.
Yeah.
Can we continue? Can we
Okay.
continue the Q&A session?
Okay. Okay, Mister, I'm waiting for you. Choose 3 participant, the best participant this evening.
3 participants. So it can't be some of the names. I cannot choose. One or two.
Pardon
I think
me,
there's a question from Nancy.
Miss Jovita, yeah. I think Miss Jovita. Please, Miss Jovita, time is yours.
Oh, sorry. Okay, hi, Mr. Made. How are you? I am the one of the excited person with this match, with this meeting, because I love UK so much. Maybe it started when I watched Harry Potter series, and then watching, like Master Chef is really, really interesting. So my question is, like when we make new mate instead of new friends, each country has like their different way to make a friend. Like maybe in Korean, they ask their age first to like calling each other. How about in UK? How what we do first when we want to like make new mate? And second one is it true that UK person like really real like straight point instead of like making long explanation to apply scholarship to UK, something like that. So have you ever experienced something that? Thank you.
Okay. So what was the first question? How do you make friends here? Yeah, I think if you, everywhere you go across the world, I think you just be kind to others. That's a quality that what people look for as in friends. And I think you could start calling each other on a first name basis. That's the thing. So I used to call my professor Professor Hibbert, and said, "Call me Sally." People here is quite informal. The first time my PhD supervisor asked me to for a cup of coffee, I was like, this is not happening in Indonesia. You know, someone, a professor, asked you, "Can you go? Let's go out to have some coffee." And so I was like, "Oh, really?" And then I have to call her Sally. So I think they are not that they're not that formal in particular things, but I think it's always, you know, if you want to be friends of, I think it's just universal. When you seem to be interested in that person, they will be interested in you. And of course, you don't ask things like age and you know, things like you need to avoid, how should I say it, talking about prices of things. If they are wearing nice shoes, and you don't go asking, "Oh, that's nice shoes, how much would they cost?" You know, those kind of things. But you talk about something around you. I think weather, that's this magic word. Talking about the weather in Britain, you always have, nothing is up to what you like. It's either too hot or either too cold. So that's how you start a conversation. When it said, "Oh, I'm dripping now, it's too hot." So it's a complaint in one way, but it starts people talking. I said, "No, I don't think so. I like this weather," you know. And then you start talking about. So that's how you start. You are not happy with it is too cold, too hot, too windy, not windy enough, you know. So using that. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Be genuine. If you are when to be friends, they could sense it if you are not genuine, and don't force what you want to them. So ask them what they want. Where do you want to go? Do you like this one? No, I think, you know. So be assertive but not pushy. You know, I think it's just universal. Everywhere you go, you could apply that kind of a rules if you want to make friends. And what was the question? Oh, scholarship, right? So scholarship, I got my scholarship in 2015. I've tried like probably 15 times every year. I didn't win, but you should not give up. So I tried many times. I'd never been accepted, but when I accepted it, I was, you know, I was just lucky. So keep trying. And there are many different schemes that they could offer depending on what you need to study. So I think you don't give up. So because it keep trying, and it doesn't happen in a day. So if you don't get that now, try again and keep trying. So until you got that. So that's the only thing I can see, the perseverance, that you don't give up once it's rejected. But because, you know, but of course, while I said that, it means that you have to work hard to improve yourself as well. My proposal, I think I wrote it for 3 to 4 years, the proposal that was accepted. So it's obvious in the proposal how much you understand about an issue. So if you write a proposal for 1 month, you should not expect to be accepted before it shows in the quality of what you write. So there's no cutting corners. So you invest time and energy to make it sound that you deserve to be accepted.
Wow.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maji. That's great advice. Should not give up.
Yeah, you should not give up. You know.
Only great advice.
Right. Thank you.
Ms. Jovita,
so you have to work hard.
Do you have any feedback?
Nancy?
No, thank you.
I think.
Okay. The next
Nancy.
is Miss Nancy. Yeah. Please, Miss Nancy, time is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Rian and Mr. Made. Actually, I need enlightenment tonight. The concept of saying thank you after finishing a speech or a presentation has become ingrained in Indonesian people, that we could close our speech that way unconsciously. Is it actually a strange habit, making thank you as our last words? We even put an extra slide at the end for the thank you words. Because I've read in a forum that a speaker should never say thank you at the end of a presentation, because in quotation mark, the audience should be thanking me. So what is Mr. thought and any suggestion for a good final of presentation if our audience were native? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I think thank you is a magic word that you can use thank you in many different occasions. So when you saying thank you at the end of your presentation, you thank the participant for coming actually, and they could thank you later on for the knowledge that you share. I don't have any reservations for saying thank you. I think what I would not say, Indonesian tend to apologize because that's what we do, right? Mohon maaf atas kekurangannya. You don't do that because they don't usually. So don't say that. You probably, because you don't know what to say, you have still 30 seconds left, but don't apologize. That's the thing. But I think it's okay to say thank you in my opinion. But then of course in the last slide you put question and answer session if you don't want to put thank you. I think that's my answer. I think you could just use thank you because it means that you are grateful for people's attention because they use their time to watch you and to listen to what you have to say. And there are many ways of saying that. The British would say, we have come to the end of our conversation. We have come to the end of our discussion. So that's what they say, rather than saying that's it. So avoid saying that's it, because it seems like you just want to shoot and want to go away. When you say we have come to the end of our discussion, so that's a better way of saying that. I hope that answered the questions. I don't mind using thank you because it's a magic word. So if you want somebody else to help, what is the magic word? Thank you or please, you know. So that people would like that.
Okay.
And
any feedback, Nancy?
The feedback is the love emoticon.
Okay, thank you. And then I will say Anastasia, please.
Okay, thank you for the time. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Made. I would like to ask you how you adapt in a new place, like in the UK, and how many days you need to adapt in the new environment. As we know that if we move to some place new, we need to adapt with the weather, the people, culture, and then language and others. And how you adapt? Thank you.
okay, it's just that I can't remember how many days I adapt because probably the excitement, would make you forget about, you know, probably problems that you had. The first time I was in Bristol, you know, so excited I got the opportunity to study, so I don't see any problems, and I see every challenges as an interesting learning curve. So that's what I learned. You know, if you find some troubles, so that's the challenge. Of course, the first few days is difficult. I think the transport will be difficult because you know, you have to take buses, and some bus drivers are rude, some passengers could be rude to you. So I think that's the kind of thing that, but it wouldn't stop you from traveling. As for weather, I think most of the time you start during autumn, so it's a good start because it's not winter yet. So you have some sort of a transition between a colder months into a really cold one in winter. So I can't remember how many days. I think it depends on the people, but the most important thing, you have to get friends. Friends would help you to you know, help you to go through that. If you are alone, then you will be miserable because you don't have friends to talk to. When you come to campus at the first time, you are in line for your registration. Try to chat someone up. Basically, human being have some sort of a connection that you look around among 100 people, you just find someone to look at you at the same time. So probably this could be your friends, or you are in the same class with your cohorts. Then you can have someone come to you and ask you a question, and then so that's going to be your first friend. These are people who are going to be your first friend. But of course, you see people who just don't care about what's going on around. These people are not going to be your friends, so avoid them. So it's just like a rule of thumb. So you will have your friends. I think you need friends as well. Who could be someone who lives in the same dormitory, could be someone from the same department, could be fellow Indonesian. You know, so it depends on your situation. There's no hard and fast rule for this, but you have to look around when you can find your friends. I think friends would help you a lot. You need local friends. You need also international friends, because international friends can give you ideas if you want to move houses, whether this place is good for you to hire, you know, the room rate, whatever. So the international student will give you exactly the information, because local would not, because they just know it. So yeah, I mean, I think that's about that. The first day you were there, you try to find people who be your friends.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, I think this enough for this evening, Mr. Made. I will, Mr. Made, choose the best participant to this evening. Please,
How many do I have to choose?
Two best participant.
Okay, I think Julie and Anastasia.
Yes, Julie and Anastasia.
Yay, thank
Sorry,
you,
I have to make a
Mr.
choice.
Made.
No, I think you are all very nice. I think you are all very nice, all of them.
Thank you
But I
very
have to choose.
much. It's just made my day. Thank you, thank you.
Okay. Before we close this story from United Kingdom, experiencing British English and social culture from Mr. Made Mastianta Nadera.
There's a question. How would I pronounce Harry Potter? Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
I'm not much of an actor. A cup of coffee. Is this cup of coffee or a cup of tea usually? You know, but when they ask you to go somewhere to a pub, they're going to say have a pint. You know, which means have a pint of beer or something, or have a cuppa, which means cup of coffee or tea. Okay, I hope that helps. Saldi and Arif.
I was actually waiting for you saying water, potatoes, and tomatoes.
Yeah, okay, so that, yeah, it's water. It's water. So say water, it's very American. Water. Okay. Okay, sorry, Beatrix, go on.
Okay, I will take a picture together with Mr. Made Nadera. Please open our camera, please. Okay, wait. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Okay. Just take photo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Made, we have the jargon.
Yeah.
Feel the English, feed the mind, feel the English, and yeah, we just like this. How to say it? We saw the sign of.
Use your hand, Pamade.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Is that the right one or this one?
Okay.
This one.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really
Okay,
appreciate
good luck.
it, Pamade. Yeah,
Thank you
very much.
for attending the session. So good luck for your English club.
Thank you, Pamade,
good luck, yeah.
for your
Thank you
time.
very much, Pamade.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Pamade.
Enjoy the rest of the
Thank
evening.
Love
Enjoy
this.
the rest.
Love this so much.
Yeah, thank you.
See you next time, Pak Made.
Don't forget
see you.
Indonesia, sir. Don't forget.
I
See you in
wish we
London,
have one
Pamade.
more hour.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very
See
much.
you in London.
Bye.
We will visit you.
Sure, yeah.
I mean,
Come visit
so
me
long.
here in Nottingham.
Yeah, see you in London too.
Yeah.
Bismillah.
Bye-bye. Yeah. Yeah, you will travel. You will travel after coffee date. I'm sure about that. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Made.